Today we're making a beautiful and delicious Tex-Mex inspired skillet egg dish. It's great for breakfast, it's great for dinner. We're gonna go through all the steps together and see how easy this is with pantry staples, made in one skillet, eggs that are full of protein, healthy. Let's make this. I think you're gonna love it. Let's go. This is one of those weeknight wonders that you can put together and have a great meal, but it can also be used for breakfast or brunch. And it's a Tex-Mex inspired shakshuka style skillet. And what we're gonna do is have a base of onions and jalapeños and then simmer tomatoes with beans and corn, and all these flavors are gonna come together. And on the top, we're gonna finish cooking some eggs that can be used with tortillas, almost like burrito style, whatever you want. And it's one of those great grab and go meals that uses pantry staples, but has a lot of flavor and is just really filling and delicious. So to start, I have my onion sliced, and I'm just getting some jalapeños ready. Jalapeños just add a nice flavor. They add that peppery flavor we want with just a little bit of heat. Usually the ones from the grocery store aren't too hot, but you can always check them to make sure. Take the seeds and pith out to remove as much heat as you want, and then just slice them up. So the jalapeños to me are essential because you need some fresh pepper flavor, not only canned pepper flavor, and I wanna make sure we add that in there. Now, if you're saying, I've never had shakshuka, that sounds really unique. It's a Northern African dish, and this is not shakshuka. This is though a take on kind of creating a Tex-Mex flavors that work in the same skillet idea and give you some great flavor. So I have some oil on the stove that I'm just starting to get warm in a skillet, and once it's warm, I'm gonna add my onion. The reason you want warm oil is because then that's gonna actually help the saute process. It helps something like if you warm the oil previously in a stainless steel skillet, it helps it be more non-stick and actually get a good sear. So I'm gonna add that in. You hear that beautiful sear. I love this, and we're doing a slice on it because I want that texture. And then we're gonna add in these jalapeños and put them right on top. And then I'm gonna add in some salt because I always want to make sure I season every layer as I'm cooking. So add in a good dose of salt here and let that saute. I just minced up a few cloves of garlic because I really want that flavor in there. And now that the onion has really softened and begin to just brown slightly, I wanna make sure I add in my garlic so it can start warming through and getting fragrant, but not overcooking and getting bitter. So we're gonna add that in there. You can see those onions are beautiful. That jalapeno still has this bright color, which I want. So now we're gonna add in some cumin. I love that earthy note of the cumin, so you definitely want to get a nice dose of it in there, and it's really going to meld well with the acidity of the tomatoes. A little bit of chipotle powder, which is a smoked chili powder. So if you don't want the heat, you can add in just like a smoked paprika, and that will give you that smokiness without the heat, but I love the smoked chipotle. So I just want to stir this in, and as you stir it in, it's really going to bloom, and it's really going to open up its essential oils and those spices, and really bring out their flavor and their aroma, which is why I like to do it directly into that oil with the tomatoes before I add the tomatoes. That to me is super important. Now that I have those in there and they're really fragrant, it just takes like 30 seconds to a minute. I'm gonna add in all my other things. So I have a can of those wonderful green chilies. They add so much flavor. You can get them in mild, you can get them in hot. It just goes with whatever spice level you like. But either way, you get the flavor from them, which to me is so important. We want some of those fire roasted tomatoes. You see the bits of black from the actual fire roasting. That again just adds another layer of flavor. I want some black beans, which will add protein. They add a little bit of that starchiness, that heft, and then a little bit of corn, which gives it, it actually sweetens it slightly, which is kind of nice to balance everything out. And now we can stir all of this together and bring it to a simmer and just let everything meld and simmer for just a bit before we finish with the eggs. I really want those flavors to come together. The mixture came to a simmer, and now I'm adding my eggs. This is really the final component. So you can see why it's a really quick weeknight or morning thing. What I'm doing is cracking the eggs separately into a bowl. One, to make sure I don't break the yolk if I don't want to, but two, just to make sure I don't get shell in there. It's easier to control if you have it in a little bowl. So what I'm doing is making little indentations, and you can see I've made them kind of all over, and you just wanna make sure, this is what keeps the egg kind of where you want it. So you're kind of creating this indentation. You see it simmering around it. That's what's gonna cook the egg. And then you just drop your egg really nicely down in there. You can see I have then like 2 indentations left. And guess what? The great thing about this, you can do as many or as few eggs as you want. This is great for leftovers. It's great to make into other things. It's just one of those really delicious things. Now, once I add those eggs, I do think it's important just to make sure they're well seasoned. So sprinkle the tops with a little bit of salt, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna finish up with the last 2 eggs, but all we do now is we let this simmer until they're just set. And you can take the eggs as far as you like. I like a jammy yolk slightly. You can cover it if you wanna cook them all the way through, but I like my yolk to be slightly runny usually with just the white set. So I'm gonna finish putting in my last eggs and just let this simmer. After it simmers for the amount of time you want to cook your eggs, you can see how beautifully set they are. Those whites kind of just set around. It's almost like poaching an egg, but then it has the white still around it too, which is really beautiful. And now you can just serve it up. This is like buffet style if you want it to be, however you want. I have flour tortillas, you can do corn tortillas. I think it's hard with corn tortillas from a grocery store to have them be pliable enough at home. You really need a good quality one. So I usually buy flour. And in this case, I just gave them a little bit of a char on my stovetop. You could do it on a grill too. Just give them some nice marks, add a little bit of flavor. Browning, charring adds flavor. So now you can really just build what you want. So the first egg I put in cooked slightly more, so I'm gonna put that one here in my shell, but look at this beauty. You get the egg, you get that beautiful like sauce around it, and look at all those amazing like onions and just gorgeous things with it. So to me with this, you can do some queso fresco. It's a beautiful cheese to use, and it just adds a nice little hint of this kind of tanginess to it. You can of course dress it up with maybe some avocado sliced up, and maybe a little sprinkling of cilantro. I know some people don't like cilantro, that's fine too. You can do whatever you're into, but it's really make as you want, and that's the beauty of it. And it just has that great quality to be both breakfast, brunch, but then also dinner, that same thing. And I just blew off all my cilantro, but it's a little hot. I love it. It's exactly what I love. You get the egginess, and then mixed with those beautiful spices, which different levels of spice. The chipotle powder gives it that smokiness. The things like the jalapeno or those green chilies we put in have a little bit more of a forward spiciness. It's just a really great combination. For me, dressed up with the cilantro at the end, it really adds a nice freshness on top, which I personally love. I think it's a dish that you can really make work for so many different tastes. It's great to use for something like a weeknight meal. If you're wanting something and just not quite sure what, you're probably gonna be able to open your cabinets and find a lot of these items within there, which is a great make meal that you can just come home from work, make it, enjoy it, hearty, have leftovers, that's what you want. So I hope you share this video around just so other people can see that good quality homemade food is easy to make. It can be unique, it can be delicious, it can be nurturing, nourishing, and filling all at the same time. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe and all my other recipes, because that's where they're all at. Food is where the home and where the heart should be, so enjoy it.